thing that we need to do, and I think it's clear from these rating systems, is we need to look at hard data analysis. We can't have these fuzzy, opaque, mysterious ranking systems determining our fate, determining our access to capital, determining the evaluation of different stakeholders of our companies. It's just not fair. So, what we need to do is look at hard data that's publicly available. Has it been published in an external sustainability report? Has the EPA, different national authorities, the UN, the World Bank, the IFC, have they verified this data? That's the only data we use, so there's no mystery where it comes from. But perhaps the unique component of it is we measure how the public is perceiving your sustainability performance. And I think as we've all learned, perhaps the hard way, the way that the public perceives your performance in many ways has a greater impact on your fate than your actual performance. That's the case with many companies. The next question you might ask, how can you really know what public perception of your sustainability performance is? How can you really measure that? Well, can you really measure that? So what I'm here to say is yes, you can measure it. And we've come up with an interesting way to do it. So basically, we go to where the public is talking to each other. Where is that? Increasingly these days, it's on the internet. So it's on social networks like Facebook and Twitter, smaller versions of those two networks. It's on blogs, and then the traditional media in their electronic outlets on the web. New York Times, Wall Street Journal, O Globo, any media publication that's available on the web. We track all of these and come up 24/7, by the way, and compute some interesting statistics about not how your hard data upholds your performance, but what people think it is. But you can do targeted education of stakeholders in specific locations or specific types of stakeholders. Could be the case that your own employees don't think you're doing a good job. Well, that shouldn't be that hard to fix if you just communicate the hard facts that we talk about. So when you put these two things together, it kind of creates a powerful roadmap for not only knowing as a company, how are we doing? Does it match but what we say we want to do? But do people think that's the case? And how do we close the gap so that we end up in that coveted green box, solid performance upheld by positive public perception? The problem is it's really not a laughing matter because important stakeholders are partly using these ranking systems to make decisions that affect our companies every day. For example, socially responsible investors might take a look at these and say, I'm not sure if I should buy their stock if they're not socially responsible. Regulatory authorities might look at these when deciding whether to grant or renew a permit. And then finally, the media. Not only do they produce these rankings in some cases, but in other cases they use these to decide whether or not to cover your company favorably or not. Now, do you want your company to be constrained in its access to capital, to have your projects blocked at the permitting level, to have the media perhaps damage your reputation in the press? No. So they're actually very important rankings, and it's a big problem. Just to make you feel better, though, it's not only the mining industry that's being picked on and seemingly unfairly judged by these rating systems. One of our favorite global auto manufacturers, Toyota, is a good example. Look at the huge discrepancy between their rankings. If you've also been frustrated with the lack of transparency, the lack of reliability, and really the lack of fairness in a lot of these sustainability ratings, whether it's in our industry or in coffee or in consumer products, I'd like to hear from you. This is our business, and we very much like to incorporate the opinions of sustainability leaders and others in these industries.